Have you ever felt something was wrong, but couldn't explain why? You walk away from the conversation feeling heavy, not angry, just drained. Like you gave away a piece of yourself without even realizing it. No arguments, no insults, just a look, a laugh, a few well-placed words, and suddenly you're doubting yourself. What just happened? This is the subtle battlefield no one talks about. The war that doesn't leave bruises, but steals your energy in silence. You try to be kind, understanding, even generous, but you walk away from these people feeling less sure of yourself, less powerful, less whole. And the worst part? You keep going back. There's something in you that pretends not to notice. You excuse their behavior. You tell yourself you're overthinking it. But what if you're not? What if that strange emptiness you feel after being with them isn't a mystery, but a message? What if that tightness in your chest, that tension in your gut, is your body screaming what your mind doesn't want to admit? Because here's the truth. Some people don't hate you outright. They hate what you represent. Your growth threatens their stagnation. Your clarity exposes their confusion. Your light makes their shadows visible. And so they don't attack you. They undermine you. They don't confront you. They mock you with a smile. They don't insult you. They give you a compliment that somehow leaves a bruise. These are not enemies in the traditional sense. These are silent saboteurs, the kind who use affection as a mask and guilt as a weapon. It's the colleague who calls you lucky, but never talented. The friend who's there for your struggle, but goes quiet in your success. The relative who claims you've changed just when you start setting boundaries. They will never hit you, but they'll hollow you. And the cruelest part? They know what they're doing, but you don't, because you're too busy trying to keep the peace, too conditioned to be nice. So you stay, you tolerate, you rationalize, because facing the truth means facing a terrifying question. What if someone I love doesn't want to see me win? But that question is exactly where your liberation begins. You keep calling it friendship, loyalty, love. But if something inside you feels smaller every time you engage, it's not connection, it's corrosion. The most dangerous poison doesn't burn. It seeps, and it hides inside the people who say they care. They'll never admit what they're doing. Instead, they'll flip it back on you. Say you're distant. Say you're cold. Say you've changed. They'll make you feel like you're the villain for finally protecting your peace. This isn't love. This is emotional extortion. But here's the real question. Why do you allow it? What in you tolerates their passive hostility? What old wound is being reopened every time you swallow your voice to keep the peace? Maybe you grew up being taught that being loved meant being agreeable, that being accepted meant shrinking. Maybe you were praised for being quiet, for being helpful, for being the one who never caused trouble. And so now, even as an adult, you find yourself surrounded by people who don't support you. They use you. People who hand you crumbs of respect in exchange for total compliance. And you take it, because deep down, some part of you still believes that being chosen is more important than being whole. But that belief is the cage. These people in your life, the ones who drain you, aren't random. They're mirrors, reflecting the parts of you that still haven't healed. The part that fears being alone more than being disrespected. The part that thinks love requires sacrifice. They're showing you what you're still allowing, what you're still afraid to let go of. As Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. It's easy to label others toxic. It's harder to ask, why do I keep drinking the poison? Because if someone is silently sabotaging you and you're still showing up, still responding, still letting them in. What does that say about you? This is where real growth begins, not by blaming others, but by turning the mirror around. You see, until you do that, you'll keep confusing emotional suffering with emotional bonding. You'll keep mistaking trauma repetition for connection. And worst of all, you'll call it loyalty. But loyalty without self-respect is just a cage you built for yourself. These false friends, these hidden enemies, they're not obstacles. They're assignments. They're showing you where you still need to reclaim your voice. And make no mistake, if you don't cut the thread, they'll keep pulling it. They won't destroy you all at once. That's not how this works. They'll do it slowly. First, they make you question your choices, then your confidence, then your sanity. You start to censor yourself. You walk on eggshells. You hesitate to speak. You dull your light just enough so they feel comfortable. And one day you wake up exhausted, anxious, disconnected, and you have no idea why. But your body knows. Your intuition knows. Your energy field has been contaminated because every human bond is an energetic exchange. And when someone is secretly resenting you while pretending to support you, that contradiction infects your mind. No amount of logic can override what your nervous system already senses. You smile through their compliments, but your chest tightens. You laugh at their jokes, but your gut churns. And still, you stay. Because facing this truth means letting go of the illusion, but the illusion is killing you. You're not imagining it. You're just finally ready to see it. And that moment, the moment the illusion breaks, that's when your real healing begins. The moment you finally see it, the mask slipping, the truth behind the hug, the resentment behind the compliment, it cuts deep. It's not just shock, it's grief. Because what you're losing isn't just a person, it's the illusion of safety you build around them. You start replaying every moment in your head. The passive-aggressive comments, the backhanded compliments, the way they go quiet when you were happy, then show up smiling when you failed. You realize they never wanted you broken, just beneath them. But now you've seen it. Now the performance is over. And here's where the real war begins. Not with them, but within yourself. Because the truth is, knowing the pattern means nothing if you stay in it. And this is where most people retreat. They second-guess their instinct. They tell themselves they're overreacting. They back down, not because they're wrong, but because they're afraid to be right, afraid of being alone, afraid of looking selfish, afraid of what will happen when they stop playing the role they were assigned. But let me ask you this. What's the cost of staying silent just to keep the peace, when that silence is slowly erasing you? Because make no mistake, staying in these relationships won't just cost you your joy. It will cost you your identity. You'll forget what it feels like to speak without apologizing, to choose without explaining, to shine without guilt. You'll shrink so slowly, so quietly, that one day you'll look in the mirror and realize you've become unrecognizable, even to yourself. But you don't have to let it get that far. You don't have to bleed out for people who sharpen their knives with your name in their mouth. There is another way. It starts with emotional distance, not revenge, not drama, not long-winded conversations begging them to understand. Just distance. No more texts explaining why you're pulling away. No more, "I just want to clear the air." They don't need clarification. They need consequences. Stop giving them your energy. Stop handing them updates on your inner world. Stop giving them access to the version of you that once tolerated being manipulated. Because that version of you, they're gone. Let your silence say what your boundaries never could. They'll notice. Trust me, when someone has fed off your emotional availability, your constant need to prove your goodness, your silence is starvation. They'll call you cold. They'll say you've changed. You have. And that change is what threatens them most. Because now, they're no longer the center of your decision-making. Your life no longer spins around their comfort. You're no longer dancing for their approval. You're done. And that, for them, is unbearable. But for you, it's freedom. Because once you distance yourself, once you step out of the cycle, you'll feel it. A kind of clarity that's been buried under years of guilt and people-pleasing. You'll start to hear your own thoughts again. You'll trust your intuition again. You'll reclaim the parts of yourself you abandoned just to make them feel secure. But that's not the end, because emotional distancing is just step one. The second step is even more critical. What will you replace them with? Because if you don't fill that space with truth, strength, and self-connection, you'll attract someone just like them all over again. That's how cycles work. You don't break them by walking away. You break them by walking differently going forward. This means building relationships that aren't based on guilt, obligation, or silent self-sacrifice. It means saying no even when it makes you look mean. It means letting people misunderstand you and being okay with it. It means walking alone for a while, not because you're unlovable, but because you're no longer available to be used. You have to detox your nervous system from people who made anxiety feel like love. And that takes time. It takes solitude. It takes courage. But more than anything, it takes choosing yourself fully, not just when it's convenient, not just when you're already broken, but before it gets to that point. And when you do, when you stop defending your boundaries and start embodying them, everything changes. Your energy shifts. Your aura sharpens. You move differently. Suddenly, the people who used to test you go quiet. The ones who once manipulated you lose their grip. The ones who fed off your confusion choke on your clarity, because when you stop giving them fuel, their fire goes out. You don't have to fight them. You just have to stop feeding them. Let them sit in the silence you leave behind. Let them taste the absence of your tolerance. Let them drown in the emptiness you once filled with your emotional labor. And you build, you rest, you reconnect with who you were before they told you that your worth was tied to your compliance. You remember that your power never came from being agreeable. It came from being aligned with your intuition, your truth, your non-negotiables. And once you truly embody that alignment, you become unreachable to the people who once drained you. They'll still talk, they'll still bait, they'll still try. But your peace won't flinch. Your silence will speak louder than your old explanations ever did. And your new life, centered around self-respect and unshakable boundaries, will become the loudest statement of all. So if this message struck something deep in you, don't just feel it, act on it. Drop the weight, let them go. Not to punish them, but to protect you. And remember, you don't owe your past self an apology. You were doing your best with what you knew, but now you know better. So now, you do better. If this resonated, leave a comment and share your moment of realization. Let someone else know they're not alone in this silent war. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us. Because this channel isn't just about survival, it's about evolution. The emotional chains are breaking, and you're finally free.